being a fresh graduate mechanical engineer, like everybody's aspiration, I wanted to really go into the depth of the mechanical engineering environment, and I was blessed to be getting a job straight from my college for Tata Motors, the erstwhile, which used to be known as Telco. So I joined Telco Jamshedpur as a graduate engineer trainee with a bunch of youthful people, all from different colleges.
Hello and welcome to another episode of FaceTime with Leaders by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Priya George, and I'm excited about today's conversation because we have someone truly exceptional with us. Mr. Tapas Kumar Banerjee, with over 37 years of experience in FMCG, engineering, and food processing industries, is a leader who has seen it all. From operational strategy to scaling businesses, he's done it all and with remarkable success. TK, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Your career journey is impressive to say the least. From leading innovative projects at Hain Celestial India to your strategic leadership at national giants such as Imami and Dabur, you've made an undeniable impact across multiple sectors.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you very much for really bringing in such important points of my journey in the discussion today. I feel really very happy when I'm being presented as somebody from back-end operational resource, because that's how I am. That's truly what I am. And I love doing it. Thank you very much once again.
Absolutely. And the pleasure is all ours. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. Now, today's episode is sure to be packed with insights that are not just thought-provoking, but also practical for leaders navigating today's fast-paced business world. So, starting off with our first question, TK, you've had such a diverse career. From leading operations in FMCG to being part of major innovation projects in the food processing industry. And we'd love to hear it from your perspective. What was the start of your career like? What were some key moments? It could have even been, some leaders that you worked with, some mentors even, or decisions that shaped your path along the way. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, when I really talk about my initial days, I really feel happy to take you way back to the year 1987, when I completed my engineering from Calcutta University. The institute is currently what is known as Indian Institute of Science, Engineering and Technology. Yeah. So that's a brilliant institute, and I feel very happy to be a part of that alma mater. And, that's how I started my journey. When I was fresh from the college, being a fresh graduate mechanical engineer, like everybody's aspiration, I wanted to really go into the depth of the mechanical engineering environment. And I was blessed to be getting a job straight from my college for Tata Motors, the erstwhile, which used to be known as Telco. So I joined Telco Jamshedpur as a graduate engineer trainee with a bunch of youthful people, all from different colleges. And, it was a long 1 decade of journey with Telco Jamshedpur. Priya, it's important, I'd always been thinking about, for everybody, for any individual who wants to really do something in their professional life, it is the stepping stone which is very important. And I'm thankful to the Tatas, this 1 decade of my journey with Tatas, really starting as a graduate engineer trainee. And then when I was coming out of it, I was in the managerial cadre, and I got opportunities of really working across the value chain, it's something very rare, it's such a big company with so many people working. So I got to start myself working with design. And then I went down, we used to do machine designs. And then I went down to the shop floor wherein those machines, those concepts were actually built into machines. And when I talk about machines, they're a brilliant piece of, Like they are marvelous piece of equipment that I'm talking about. These are special purpose machines, I started building
Right.
those machines. What a
Mm.
beautiful moment when you really see your textbooks getting translated into your work. It was a beautiful pleasurable time, I must say, Priya. It was a lovely time. And then after that, when you are making machines, you need equipments, and those
True.
equipments, those small components, they come from very specialized tech environment, which is the central tool room. I feel so happy. In the latter part of my journey, you'll see that I moved into more of FMCG and more of processed foods. But those hardcore tech engineering still stimulates me. And I got into tool room. I handled best of the machines, and beautiful machines. And then I got an opportunity of actually going into production lines, and I was actually running live actual production at one point of time, and then I left. So that was my stepping stone. When somebody calls me about my early days, my those days when I was
Right.
young, time was actually there was no difference between sunrise and sunset. It was just 24 hours, just work, work, and work. That those were beautiful days. So those were my stepping stones. Thank you.
Right. What I find really interesting is, like you, a lot of leaders that I have had, the opportunity to interview, many of them talk about, starting from the ground up, regardless of the position that they have been hired for, but, just getting down to brass tacks. And I think that's where, and interacting with, not just your immediate, peers, but everybody, and looking at a business from all angles. I think that plays a big role in how you view the business. And I understand where you're coming from. And thank you for sharing that with us. So,
Correct.
TK, you've had such an interesting mix of experiences working with
Yeah.
both, large corporations and startups. And one thing that stands out is your strategic support for India entry. And we all know that entering the Indian market comes with its own unique set of challenges. So we'd love to hear what was some of the most unique challenges that you faced, and how did you tackle those hurdles to help them succeed?
That's a brilliant piece of a question, Priya. I must say that. It's important because startup is definitely one of the very important links of our nation's economy.
True,
Like India is
true,
doing
true,
currently marvelously well. We all know about it. It's because of
true,
the big wheel that is moving, which is picking up the startups.
true.
And like it's important in the sense because in the current present global order, wherein
Hmm.
important India is becoming an important destination for the globe. People want to
Hmm.
come and operate in India because of advantages, which is itself is a big chapter we can discuss later. But
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
definitely for startups, whether it is an India-grown startup or whether it is an entry India strategy by an organization coming from outside, the set of challenges are by and large the same.
Right.
When you really look at the challenges, I possibly can bucket it into two parts. One is more internal centric, that is centric to the people who are actually planning to build the startup or enter India. And the second is external centric, wherein the challenges come from an external environment.
Okay.
I faced this, like I have been handling and hand holding for that matter, many of
Hmm.
these
Hmm.
startups, and they are doing brilliantly well. I feel very happy about it.
Yes.
The first
Yes.
possible challenge is, the investors, they have to actually accept the fact that there are set of people who are groomed, who are tailored, who are customized to actually take up certain assignments. And then, they should be open to unlearn and relearn. That's very important. That's where a challenge is. At times people come from business environments and they carry certain notions. That is an important challenge that one has to go through. And the second important thing is, the first initial few days when the startup is actually picking up dust, that's the
Hmm.
time when let the steering be with the hands which it deserves to be with.
Hmm.
People who are qualified and experts in handling that, let the investors take a back seat. These are
Hmm.
the two important things which I can talk about, the internal part of it. The second external part of it is very big, is more of culture, which I've seen. For example, when a Western company comes into India, the way Indians work, the way Indians communicate, like all these things is definitely something that needs to be intermingled, which is very
Hmm.
true. Even for an acquisition also, it is very important that the cultural mesh up is definitely what is important. That's the first point. And the second important thing, external challenge, is basically the technology gap. We adopt.
Right.
Nowadays, we find that the global order is definitely available across to everybody. So that particular technology gap is definitely needs to be filled up. That's a challenge. Now, when I talk about a technology gap, I talk about original equipments, I talk about spare parts, I talk about supplies and all that stuff. Third important thing is localization of important inputs that goes into the operation. It localizations could be machines and spares, the localization could be a raw material, the localization could be a type of packing material.
Or even the people there in the local community.
Exactly, that's true.
Right.
And even the skills that is required at times can be a challenge. So one has to really identify and do training and a skill development protocol. So these are some of the challenges, but one has to really look into it.
Right. I think startups, like you mentioned, they are the pulse of India at the moment. And I think startups come with a very unique energy, especially with the core group who's actually, started the organization. So thank you for scaffolding that response for us. And moving on, TK, you've had a remarkable journey. And one of the standout moments was your time at Imami, where you were responsible for managing, an investment of rupees 317 crore across multiple projects. So we want to know, how did that experience shape the way you approach leadership and managing large-scale operations?
Absolutely right, and that is one experience, that is one learning. I feel very happy to carry it throughout my life. Imami as an organization is a brilliant organization with a lot of youthful energy in it, packed with youthful energy. Like any other organization, when with the skills growing up, opportunities coming up, so there were big projects that were coming up. And Imami always believed in actually accelerating that. Now coming back to your question, I got an opportunity of actually leading it from the front of a very mega project in Assam. And like the project, when it comes to when you put up a hard hat on your head, you are actually, it's like a war front. You don't bother about. So the site that I got was basically a 26-acre of plot, of a big size plot with possibly 2/3 of the land underwater.
Wow.
As deep as almost about 10 to 12 feet. Some parts. Now that's the piece of land. That's where a challenge comes to an engineer. Now you have to match up with those challenges. But I feel happy we spent almost about 160 crores of rupees in that particular project, converting that greenfield into possibly the largest manufacturing location for Imami as of now. But along with Imami, I must say that I handled many such projects. In fact, for Dabur also, I managed many of those projects. Quite a few of them were brownfield projects. Quite a few of them were greenfield projects. And even in the very last 5-6 years back, when I wanted to bring in, or it was entrusted on me to really bring in Hain from US and set up their plant in India near Bangalore, which we did, and which turned out to be one of the best factories it ever had in their umbrella. So those are different projects. And let me tell you, any operation man, project should be one of the strongest arm for an operation, because projects brings in scales, projects brings in changes, and change is what is inevitable, right? So project is possibly the one place where we actually worship and solemnize change. So that's very important. So these were my ideas about big investments that I did for some of the major giants that I got associated with.
Right. That's, I think, really interesting. And handling such a large scale responsibility quite early on in your career must have really shaped your leadership philosophy. So thank you for sharing that little anecdote with us. Now, your deep expertise in product portfolio augmentation and new product development is really remarkable, especially in today's fast evolving market. Like, companies are constantly looking for ways to diversify their offerings. Now, given your extensive experience in this area, what advice would you offer to companies trying to strike that balance? How can they innovate, expand their product, without losing sight of the brand identity they have worked so hard to build?
Very, very valid question and very important, I must say, Priya. I acknowledge that question with a lot of humility. You know, change is inevitable. The reason why change is inevitable is because, we must agree that the world, that the globe has shrunk into, possibly got zipped into everybody's smartphone nowadays. So we can see what is happening in far west. We can see what people, I think people have started traveling. It is not India of the 1960s. Now this time India, wherein people knows everything that is happening around us. So they are tracking, be it fashion, be it health, be it home products, be it food, anything for that matter. People know about what's happening, the great things that are happening across the world, and their expectation matrix accordingly, take shape. Now, as an organization, innovation is the only way to possibly connect themselves with this dynamic situation. The market is dynamic. On a real-time situation, the market is changing because people who form the market, they are themselves absolutely dynamic. There cannot be any other way other than innovation. But then, if rampant, uncontrolled, unregulated innovation, correct? Absolutely wrong. That can really lead somebody to serious troubles. Now, what are the boundaries? The boundaries are basically the brand. For example, the brand which I was working in my last engagement, which was an US brand, those brands, any brand for that matter, are built up like a baby. The people who create those brands, they slowly start generating the brand. So there are so many boundaries that are created around the brand. Brand speaks about values, brand speaks about ethos, brand speaks about social connects, brand speaks about the visions and the missions of the organization. So one has to maintain within the boundaries of the brand. For example, Hain believed in good for health products. That's where it should be good for the health. It should be good for people. They believed in simplified products. So at one point of time, we were driving a project wherein we said that the limit of ingredients should be nothing more than 13. Currently, if you look at products available in the shelf, where possibly if you go on reading, it takes about 5 minutes for you to really read out the ingredients. There are almost about a half, 50 or 25 of them. That confuses customers. So brand is very important, and innovation is what establishes connect of the manufacturer or the brand owner with the market and with the consumers, and also with the end consumers as well as with the corporate customers. So innovation is very important. Innovation is one thing which brings vital functions of an organization like NPD, sales, marketing, quality, shop floor. Everybody is being squeezed down into a single point where people put their minds together, and then whatever comes out of it is what is actually offered to the customer. But then the company should always strive to bring new products into the market. Always strive to bring new products into the market. That is my suggestion as far as innovation is concerned, that people should be completely committed to ensure that there is a psyche of innovation within the organization, and it is appreciated and it is cultured and people are motivated to do that. Thank you for that question. I really love that question. Brilliant question.
So TK, if I understood you correctly, is it okay to say that while innovation is really important and the world and the market is dynamic and we need to move forward, it's important to also take a step back and take cognizance of the vision, mission, and values that drive the organization every now and then?
Absolutely. You've pinned it right. Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your response. And now, TK, as you continue to evolve as a leader, we are curious to know what the future aspirations for you look like. Do you see yourself stepping into, boardroom roles? Do you see yourself as a mentor and pass down your knowledge? Do you envision the next phase of your journey? How do you envision it, both professionally and personally?
Like 37 years is a very long period of time.
True,
And
absolutely.
I am possibly one of those fortunate few wherein I've got a huge amount of diversity. I worked with automobiles, I worked with exciting industries like batch chemical processing, I worked with big FMCG giants like Dabur and Mami, I worked with like advisory companies, I worked with US companies. So this brings in a plethora of experiences and learnings. Now,
Right.
I definitely find an inner urge of sharing that learning with people around us.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
it could be three ways. Board is definitely what I'm looking for because board
Okay.
is a group of people who actually converts, who actually drives, which is where the traction lies at.
Change.
So I can
Yes.
be a very important member of the team and help them or help the organization to achieve goals in that way. Second important thing which I'm doing is I also wanted to translate to students who are getting ready to be a professional into the professional world. And I'm actually working with the university and
Right.
heading their project incubation center. So I'm actually trying to help incubate projects, ideas into results. And also,
Wow.
I'm open to really support people who want to take advices or, take some benefits out of my learning. So all the three ways, if you look at the common string is that I wanted to actually share my knowledge with people and the audience in large.
Right. Right. And I think it's clear from our conversation so far that you are a person who's driven by, passion. You love what you do. There is vision, there is a lot of foresight, and you come equipped with all that experience. So I'm sure that whatever you venture to do next, we wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank
Uh,
you.
so thank you for responding. TK, ESG has become a very critical focus for businesses around the world. It's no longer just a buzzword, but a very essential, part, um, a very integral part in, any organization. So now, with your extensive experience, we're just curious to hear your perspective on this. How do you see the role of ESG evolving in the future and it becoming, rather than just a checklist, something which is integrated into the very fabric of, an organization's culture?
Like in my journey, at every stage, I have picked up certain very core learnings.
Right.
In the last one decade that I worked with food predominantly, processed food,
Hmm. Hmm.
I had an opportunity of working with foods of multiple sectors. I worked with
Correct.
commodity, I worked with snacking, I worked with baby food, I worked with table spreads and groceries, I worked with beverages, dairy beverages, non-dairy beverages,
Right.
and many of those stuff. I picked up one important learning, which the Western world has already gone ahead, which is
Hmm.
ESG. And I completely acknowledge that there cannot be any other noble word other than the group of people who are responsible or the organization in large to really work towards one common goal of ESG. ESG is extremely important. And in India also, if you see, the earlier days of wherein we had a few goals set out in 2011 with regard to ESG, there was no reporting as such. But now, whether it is the Companies Act or whether it is the SEBI LODR, they are all talking about basically reporting nowadays, but may not be to the extent what the Western world is doing. In my last association with US companies, I've been very closely working with a team of people who worked on ESG because there it is mandatory. You cannot expect the consumers, the end customers, the corporate customers, everybody wants that the organization through which they purchase products should be completely compliant and sensitized towards ESG. And I'll tell you, it is becoming mandated that ESG reporting is going to happen, even in India for that matter, Like, for example, sustainability reporting. If we really look at the goals of sustainability, it is so important. It talks about gender equality, it talks about zero poverty, it talks about zero hunger, it talks about equity in workspace, it talks about shared values. These are so important things. And these are essentially happening because I've worked on this. There are reportings that are absolutely necessary with regard to how an organization is committed towards ensuring environmental upkeep within the places where it works and also the community with which it engages. I have done a
Correct.
survey. I've done a survey, and I must say this in today's discussion, that even to the extent that we had to go to the farmers and ensure that to what extent they are demonstrating gender equality. What is women empowerment? To what extent are the ladies of the house deciding what crop to be planted in the next season? To what extent the world is moving. And isn't it a lovely thing to really think about it? Like you work so much in close coordination with people through whom you actually take materials. We talk about Modern Slavery Act, we talk about, like bonded labor. These are definitely the times one has to really come out of it. One has to really forget about it. One has to really ensure that the systems are so robust and so self-defining that one cannot survive without it. And the days are not far off when the customers will start demanding they will not pick up products from manufacturers who are not committed towards ESG. ESG is definitely one of the best thing one can talk about.
Right, absolutely. I think that's a very powerful perspective. And Shank, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. As we near the end of the interview, TK, you recently joined Directors Institute, and we'd love to know from you that despite all your experience, you dove headlong into learning again. So what motivated you to take this step, and how do you feel that uh, the programs at Directors Institute and the network are helping you refine your leadership skills? So we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Priya, I feel extremely privileged when I think about like when I took the decision to really get connected to the Institute of Directors. I have been perfectly trained. I find myself so much enlightened with regard to the core concepts of governance, how important governance is. And it's today you asked it, and I formally wanted to really, from the core of my heart, to thank uh, yourself, your team, your people, your decision authorities, your company heads, your leadership team. It's a brilliant concept, brilliant content, brilliant execution, and brilliant delivery. I remember it, and a big thank you for all of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind words. And we are glad that joining Directors Institute has been a step in the right direction with regards to your career. And so that's all the time that we have with Mr. Tapas Kumar. And that wraps up another insightful episode of FaceTime with Leaders by Directors Institute. TK, it has been an absolute pleasure having you with us today. Your journey, insights into leadership, and experience in scaling operations are truly inspiring, and we are grateful for the valuable lessons you've shared with us. So thank you once again for joining us on FaceTime with Leaders.
Thanks, Priya, and I feel privileged. Thank you very much.
And a big thank you to all of our audience members for joining us today. We hope you found today's episode both inspiring and thought-provoking. This is your host, Priya George, signing off. Until next time, keep leading and keep learning. Take care.